All right, forecast. Yes, if we take a quick look at the dollar right here, we can see Monday candle has closed. Now, at this moment in time, it is still quite a slow market, and this is of course expected. Main volatility for the dollar will come in on Thursday as well. So in the meantime, I am not super interested in doing anything related to the dollar, potentially indices, but other than that, not super interested. And the reason I say that is as well because indices itself already have quite a volatility due to equities open, etc. So this right here is where I would expect already a big move to happen even before CPI potentially on Thursday. So we are seeing again this area getting respected, the fair value area right there getting respected, which then the next target is this high sitting right there. That is exactly the high we want to currently target. So ES right here is actually very beautiful. It's currently very nice price action, and we got a beautiful rejection higher already. So if you can now find that new context and then continue higher, perfectly fine. On the 1 hour, 15 minute, etc., if we are trading a flow trading plan, this high right there would currently be my higher time frame target as well. Then to quickly go over the dollar again, I'm still expecting lower prices, but we just need that volatility in the market. So I'm mainly waiting for that CPI as well to come into the market to actually show us what it wants to do. Then for NASDAQ right here, we have the same kind of price action as on ES, and we are currently respecting the fair value area overall with the fair value gap sitting there as well. So we can look to continue higher here as well. And the same premise as on ES, if we can get nice context to continue higher, that could be very nice as well. On YM, let's see. On YM, and YM has this weekly fair value gap still sitting there. Now, I also mentioned that I would not necessarily expect YM to come into that weekly fair value gap, and the reason being for that is because if NASDAQ and ES already want to continue higher like they're doing right now, then YM will also just follow and will not come into the weekly fair value gap first. So here, if you are trading a flow trading plan, for example, then here finding a fair value gap to already continue higher off of that would be perfectly fine in my opinion. Then on DAX, DAX had quite nice price action from what I saw actually today. I saw quite a few members as well actually catch a trade right here, which is absolutely beautiful. Let's actually dive into this a little bit. I feel like diving into this. So on the weekly, we mentioned, right, we can continue higher just off the fair value area overall. Beautiful price action, really textbook that fair value. I really like that. Then on the 1 hour and the 4 hour fair value gap right there. Now on the 1 hour, and it's the same phenomenon actually, phenomenon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, where if we come into that 4 hour fair value gap right there quite late during that candle, and we can see that because it's a very low close, then just like a previous day low sweep, just like a previous week low sweep, we can sweep that to then continue higher, the previous 4 hour candle in this case, which in the same case is also a 1 hour candle sitting right there, or sorry, a 1 hour swing low. So once we sweep that, we also know that like the equities open for the indices for ES, NASDAQ, and YM, the same thing happens on DAX, but it just happens at 3 a.m. So at 3 a.m. New York local time, we see a huge move, first going higher a little bit, then we see a huge move going low right there. We have a beautiful textbook ST. That is absolutely amazing. That is a textbook ST right there. And afterwards, we can look to, of course, get involved. Let's see if there was any setup. Well, there was a few setups because I also saw members catching this exact trade. The 5-minute ST is sitting there as well, which could have in itself already been an entry. The 1 minute sitting right here. Let me see. 1 minute ST plus the 1 minute re. That's beautiful price action actually. Absolutely lovely. Lovely little price action. And for DAX, if you do want to trade it, again, my advice would always wait for that 3 a.m., right? First, wait for that 3 a.m. to see what it wants to do before getting involved. Because let's say you got involved right there before 3 a.m., then again, sometimes it might play out, but what I would want to wait for is wait for that fair value gap right there to be created. And in that fair value gap right there, then wait for your new entry confirmation. And if you do not get that, then very simply said, perfect. You don't take a loss. You don't do anything. Very nice. So then you wait for the swing low and then you react again. So Very nice price action. Just quickly wanted to touch on this as well. Very nice. I like it. So eventually, of course, we can just look to continue higher to take out these highs sitting right there. Very nice. Lovely price action on the indices as expected at the beginning of the week as well. Australian dollar, US dollar. Let's see. We are still in that weekly order block sitting right there. Now, we don't really have volatility currently. And that was also expected. So it's not too crazy because we're still, for the US dollar pairs, mainly waiting for that Thursday to show up. And then we can expect the real volatility to come into the market as well. So here as well, the 4-hour ST is currently getting respected. Now, I do want to warn you as well that in this moment in time, we can see that the first leg higher was a very big leg right there. It's a very big leg higher. So the second leg is quite small compared to the first leg. So be aware of that as well, that the momentum in the second leg, also because of we don't really have that news supporting the ID, is just lacking. It's lacking in overall momentum. So give it a few more time, I would argue, and personally going to wait for CPI to show what it actually wants to do. Euro US dollar, same exact story. Nothing really going on right now. Just very slow price action. Same for GU, although GU is already continuing higher. So here we could potentially see 4-hour VWAP getting respected to then already continue higher as well. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, very similar to Australian dollar, US dollar, of course. So here I would also want to wait a little bit more to potentially get involved later on this week. US dollar, Canadian dollar, let's see. We did not come into that weekly VWAP sitting right there. So here I still want to wait a little bit more as well. Nothing really interesting in my eyes. US dollar, CHF, let's see. So we did not come into that weekly VWAP just yet. So there's nothing really to talk about. Still waiting right here. US dollar, JPY. This is where we swept a swing high in the form of that daily swing high right there. We came into that daily VWAP. And with the idea of the dollar potentially being bearish, then we can see this daily VWAP is not, or this daily VWAP is not creating a new daily VWAP higher off of that. We are clearly respecting that swing high as well. So eventually we have unusual context to potentially continue lower as well. So that's quite interesting right here. If we can get 4-hour VWAPs lower as well, then we even have 4-hour order flow after that confirmed. So that is quite interesting price action, I do have to say. Silver, let's see. Silver currently, just not really interested in doing anything on silver. And the main reason being is because if the dollar wants to continue lower, silver will likely continue higher. So it's also pretty illogical in my eyes right here. So I do not want to do anything here on silver. Same goes for gold. While gold is still a little bit stronger than silver overall, also do not really like it myself right there and just simply want to wait. Then on Bitcoin, we finally have a move higher actually. All right, that's quite interesting. So the next target is quite close as well. So can we get any context to then reach this swing high sitting right there? That could be very nice. Could be very nice. Crude oil right here. Crude oil, we actually got to move lower. All right, did not expect that myself. That is quite interesting. So in this move lower, I currently do not really want to get involved. If I want to get involved, I would want to wait for this daily VWAP to then be created. If that's created, all right, I might change my mind as well. Then on Nifty, let's see. Nifty, we also got a move lower right there, which is quite interesting because then eventually we can look to potentially create unusual context to target lower again. So if you get that confirmation, could be very interesting. If we take a look at the short list, USD CHF, we talked about Euro CHF right there. Still waiting for the weekly VWAP. Euro GBP. Now this one is interesting because on the daily, we had this daily VWAP which can act as a breakaway gap. And in the finishing touch videos of the advanced enrollment, we will also touch on breakaway gaps a little bit more. I want to touch on it very quickly here, where it really depends on, and the way I see a breakaway gap. A breakaway gap is a breakaway gap because the momentum is too high that price first wants to reach the drawn liquidity before it wants to come back into a fair value gap. So the question is always, we have a premium rate and we have a discount rate, right? We are always looking to either trade off with premium rate or trade off with discount rate and to target the opposite. That's what we're doing. So either we are waiting for this discount rate the premium rate in the form of that fair value gap to be traded into, to then continue lower off that, or we trade into the premium rate. That's the easiest thing you can do as well for your buys. It's just marking the first premium rate and marking the first discount rate. We are likely going to trade to either one of them. So how do we know to which one we are going to trade to first? Well, based on a breakaway gap at this moment in time, right there, at this moment in time, I would not count this as a breakaway gap. And the breakaway gap, very simply said, we're going to touch on this as well a little bit more in depth. Very simply said is if we close below the previous candle low right there, it would have been a breakaway gap. But after this new move lower, I would still see that as a breakaway gap right now, because clearly it did not retrace into the fair value gap. So at this moment in time, I would argue we first off want to reach this draw on liquidity and potentially lower as well, before later on we potentially want to create that retracement to then come into the fair value gap. So that is exactly my thought process here as well, where then what can we do? Well, we can allow ourselves to potentially go into the 4 hour already to see 4 hour mitigation block with the 4 hour fair value gap to already continue lower off of that as well. So that is very interesting, and I'm not sure what news was doing again for tomorrow. We'll have to check that. But if news is supporting the idea of trading Euro GBP tomorrow, so we have GBP news, for example, then this could be very interesting to actually trade. It looks very nice in my opinion. Then on the longs, Australian dollar, US dollar, we talked about that. Australian dollar, JPY. This is where Monday actually, with the recent candle close, we actually respected the daily fair value gap. But by the looks of it, we are not continuing higher off of it currently, and we are more so respecting this 4 hour fair value gap as well. So here is waiting. If we still get that 4 hour fair value gap higher, I would still be interested. This is the first area of resistance if we do want to continue higher. So it's not a crazy rejection. It can happen, of course. Still waiting right there. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, we are also waiting, and we already touched on it. Australian dollar, CHF. So let's see. This is where we were talking about that swing low, potentially sweeping it even to come back into the weekly fair value gap sitting right there. That could be quite interesting overall. But we do not really have, well, it is currently developing actually. We have the ST right there. ST potentially developing as well. So we could see this ST being created to then continue higher off that. Could be quite interesting actually. Quite interesting price action, and we'll have to keep an eye on it right here. CHF JPY also respecting the fair value gap, the daily fair value gap right there. But we do have again that move lower as well. So here I still want to wait, don't want to do anything, just want to simply wait still. I'm going to add Australian dollar CHF to the long list though. GBP Australian dollar. Let's see. We were talking about the weekly order block, which we can potentially continue lower off of. Now, this is very interesting because we have a previous week high sitting right there. And that previous week high is very, very important because, like we mentioned, when we come into any PD ray very late during a candle, the same example we saw on, what pair was it? DAX. We saw it on DAX where the 4 hour candle got swept. The 4 hour candle low got swept on DAX. And here, the previous week candle high right there got swept. Now, if this is truly a sweep, we should not come back above this line sitting right there. Meaning, if we go into the 4 hour, etc., we are slowly creating ST. Now, could be because of the lack of overall volatility that we do not have an actual ST just yet. If we want to continue lower, then the thing we want to see right here is we want to see a continuation lower going into tomorrow. If we get new fair value gaps expanding above this previous week high, I would not be interested in shorts anymore, and if anything, I might be interested in longs, but I mainly want to take a step back right there. So if we get that, if we get new fair value gaps going lower right now, that is the condition, and not coming back above this high right here. So going to add it to the short list currently, so we can keep an eye on it as well. GBP JPY. It is currently quite close to that weekly value gap like we talked about as well. So we are also, and a lot of JPY pairs are respecting daily value gaps right there, but are not following through on them by the looks of it. because on the 4 hour we have the same weird move right there. So here I simply want to also just wait. All right, so that is currently what I'm looking at. Mainly, I really like the idea of Australian dollar CHF as well. US dollar pairs, waiting still a little bit here. Then on the shorts, I like Euro GBP, and I also do quite like GBP Australian dollar if it sets up the right thing right there. Could be very interesting. All right, perfect. Thank you.